I like to look back at the wisdom of many of the wisdom traditions and wisdom keepers. You know, I find before bed, like I'll like to read a book. I think we have the great benefit now to have all these mentors, both living and deceased, that we can tap into for their profound wisdom. And sometimes when I am in a place of challenge, I look to those who I think are wiser than I. So recently I've been thinking a lot about, for example, the work of Nelson Mandela. Talk about forgiveness, right? 27 years in prison, and yet able to hold a space of true forgiveness such that it transformed an entire nation and the world. And so thinking about also who are those that really, to me, exemplified center, right? Because, you know, it's interesting. So I don't know if I shared this with you, but I lived in Sri Lanka for 2 years studying with a traditional healer. And it's in Sri Lanka, it's the oldest living Buddhist civilization in the world outside of India. They actually brought a cutting of the Bodhi tree, the tree under which the Buddha attained enlightenment, to a place called Anuradhapura in the north of the island. And it's a thriving. So I'd wake up at 5, 6 in the morning to the monks chanting, and I lived in the verdant jungles. It was incredibly formative. But they had two monastic traditions there, right? There were the forest dwelling monks and the village dwelling monks. And the forest dwelling monks would renounce the world and go off into the forest and sort of seek enlightenment or the cessation of suffering through renouncing life, this world, right? The other tradition, which I personally resonated with more, was the village dwelling monks. And they would go into the crap, if you will, into the nuances of everyday life, the village life, which now for us is for many of us is mega city life, and things are evolving so fast. And they would pursue, and this is the Bodhisattva ideal, they would forsake the pursuit of their individual enlightenment to assuage the suffering of all sentient beings. And so I love that, because I like the idea of, I think there's times to renounce the world and to go within, but I also think there's times to be of service and to step deeply into the mess of the world and to find center, not just in the sanctuary of a spa, but in actually in the work of the everyday life, which I think is a lot of what we're being shown now is like, okay, as a teacher once told me, it's one thing to say you show up a certain way, but how do you show up when the heat's turned up, right? How do you actually show up when the room gets a little bit hotter? So I think that's something that's been intriguing for me, because I think all of us have experienced, if you will, the heat turned up, and so finding center amidst that heat, I think is one of the true dances that I think all of us are undertaking.